Sorry about that, Mark.
Somewhere along here. You got 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
You have safety cones around it?
I'll hear that on the next meeting.
Well,
We're going to put a backup alarm on you.
9-8-7-6, 4, 3, 2, 1, and meeting will be over. Call to order. I will have a roll call by the city clerk. Give you something to do.
Wow. Zone 1, present. Zone 2,
Here.
Zone 3, here. Zone 4, here. Mayor.
And we have the roll call. And someone sent me in a prayer. So I didn't get a chance to get a minister, so I'm going to read this prayer, and it's very apropos. It's called Hurricane Helene. Creator God, we ask you to calm the wind and the waves of the approaching Hurricane Helene, and spare those in its path from harm. Help those who are in its way to reach safety. Open our hearts in generosity to all who need help in the coming days. In Christ we ask. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. This is a special meeting that is not on a regular scheduled meeting. It's not a workshop. It is a meeting with a specific agenda. I'll just read the opening of it. Hopkins Hall, 192 Connecticut Avenue, Lake Ellen, Florida. Welcome to the City of Lake Ellen City Commission meeting, special meeting. The agenda for regularly scheduled commission meetings is posted in the City Hall in the week of the meeting. Agendas are also backed up materials supporting such agenda. Each agenda are available at City Hall on the city's website at www.lakehelen.com. Persons desiring to address the City Commission must fill out and provide the deputy clerk with a yellow request slip or a blue request slip for the specific agenda item. After being recognized by the mayor, persons are asked to come forward, speak from the podium, state their name and address, and direct all remarks to the commission as a body and not individual members of the commission, staff, or audience. Citizen comments during public comments and each section of the agenda where public comments is allowed are asked to limit the discussion to 3 minutes. Large groups are asked to name a spokesperson. The period of time is for comments and not for questions directed to the commission or staff for immediate answers. Answers directed to the City Commission will be referred to staff and should be answered by staff within a reasonable period of time following the date of the mission. Order and decorum will be preserved at all meetings. Personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks are not permitted. Thank you for participating in your city government. That being said, this meeting is a formality. We've had a budget process, and so that we can meet the county deadline for having submission of our budgets so that they can do what they need to do to keep us all on point. So the commission will have conditions of the consideration of the resolutions. Mr. City Administrator, do you have anything that you'd like to direct or add?
Well, Mayor, we gave you a script to follow, but what I can do for part one is go ahead and read resolution 2024-10 into the record. A resolution of the City of Commission of the City of Lake Helen of Volusia County, Florida, adopting the levy of ad valorem taxes for Volusia County for fiscal year 2024 to 2025, providing for an effective date. And the meeting is broken into two parts. The first part is dealing with the millage rate, and then the second resolution, after we're done with the millage rate, will deal with the budget. So if you have the script, it's kind of dictated by the state, so we just need to follow that. If not, I've got a copy here for you.
Okay. Let me use your copy. I think I got mine upstairs. Yeah. Thank you very much. Final budget hearing procedures. This is the second final public hearing of the City of Lake Helen fiscal year 2024-2025 property tax rates and budgets. The taxing authority is the City of Lake Helen. The rollback rate is 5.9456 mils. The percentage of change over the rollback rate is 21.94. The millage rate is levied at 7.25 mils. And announced. Public hearing on millage is now open. Recognize citizens who wish to speak. I have one blue card here, Mr. Feather.
I prefer to speak regarding the budget, if that's all right.
Okay, I couldn't read it, so I just saw your name.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Citizens has been open for the citizens.
Mayor, did you read the opening part where it reads the millage?
Yeah, he read it.
Didn't know for that. The announcement is now, okay, we did that.
Yeah.
I did that the first time. Yes, the first beginning. Okay? Now, the millage, the public hearing now is closed. City attorney is to read, he's not here, read the resolution 2024-10, millage adopted by title only. You've already done that?
Yes.
Okay. And ask for motions for the resolutions to adopt the final millage. Commissioners may make motions and seconds.
Make a motion, we adopt resolution 2024-10.
The motion is made by the Vice Mayor, by the
Second.
Eckert. Second by Commissioner Heather. Any
Can
for?
we speak before we vote on that?
Yes.
Now's the discussion.
Now the discussion period. Yeah. Okay, now ask for the Commission's discussion and to conduct the discussion. After the discussion, then that's going to be voted.
Okay, I'm a little concerned, obviously, and have been with the 7.25, and then there's parts of the budget that I'll speak to when we get to that part in this meeting. I'm still not happy with the way we didn't have enough time, the commission did not have the time to literally delve into the budget. Maybe 6 hours at that. Definitely we didn't have one full day. And we're looking at a budget that actually was turned in at 7.42 to the tax and property office in Vernon. It was turned in late. Well, it got there by August 4th, the final. believe if we had started our meetings in a timely manner, that we could have found $170,000 to bring the millage rate down. I know that we were late. I know that Gleason sent out a reminder on July 19th as a reminder to Lake Helen to get the paperwork in. That didn't occur, so they sent another one out on July 29th. At that time, we were working on the budget because it had to be in by August 4th, which was a Sunday. I just feel that it's unfair to the citizens in this city to have us rush through, push through numbers that we don't even know what's involved. I couldn't tell you what's in any general line, any general budget line. I can't tell you what's in credit cards. I mean, I can't tell you who can spend money, how much can they spend? So I just have a real problem with the way that this process occurred. It's my understanding that it occurred that way last year. It did, I know. I wasn't on the dais, but however, I was in the audience. So I just have a problem with the way that we went about getting 7.25.
Thank you.
Okay, I voted for that millage rate at the last meeting. I will not be supporting that at this meeting because of some things that have come to light in the budget, and I guess I'll speak to those when we get to the budget.
Any other discussion?
I'm not sure if people realize, but if we pass the 7.25 mils now and you go and discuss things in the budget after, it's not going to change the millage rate.
Okay.
If there's something you need, if there's something that's a problem, I think it should be brought up.
I don't have a problem with that. I can do that right now. Do you want to speak first? Okay. All right. We got these bids here for outsourcing grass cutting, very kind of willy-nilly, and I requested the actual bid, which we received. So I sat down and I did some math. Our current employees that we have right now at Public Works, the total payroll budget for that is $342,420 a year. You add 2 more employees to that, that's $127,212 for a total of $469,632. There's a new mower in the budget for $35,000. That makes a grand total, well, a total of $504,632. Now, if you add what we're paying U.S. Water per year, that's $58,912.56 for a grand total budget of $563,544.56. That's just for the Public Works Department. That does not include any outsourcing, i.e. painting, pressure washing, gas, equipment maintenance, no overtime, none of that. So then I started looking at this grass cutting outsourcing. New employees will be getting raises and at least every year, at the very least at 3%. The grass cutting cost is the same for a 3-year contract. So I looked at that and I thought, well, I believe we could get by on 33 cuts a year. The amount of cutting and everything that they do here is just unbelievable, what they say they can do. So the 33 cuts a year is $98,736. If you subtract the 2 employees and the new mower from that budget, that gives us $63,476 to the good. Now, if you do a 3-year contract with the grass cutting people, that comes out to $296,202. Now, if you do the If Ricky were to take over the daily well maintenance like he's supposed to with U.S. Water, that would save us $176,737.68. The total savings over a 3-year period would be $308,726.68. And this does not include savings from the outsourcing that our guys can now have time freed up to do, such as the painting and the pressure washing and all of that. That being said, that's that with the outsourcing of the grass cutting. Now, today we received a public records request. It was sent to all of us. And I looked over those pay stubs, and somebody needs to explain to me why we have a part-time employee who is being paid full-time benefits. Hours of PTO, overtime, holiday, vacation pay, everything. I need to know why, because to me, that is nothing but just another waste of more taxpayers' money. But, you know, I know that's what Lake Helen does. But I'm just really over it.
I too saw those payroll stubs, and there were several things that caught my eye on it. Number one, our employees get PTO time, vacation time, sick time. I never saw any line items on the ones that I went through where anyone actually counted, or it shows that you had 8 hours of vacation. I don't know where that's being reported. I didn't see it. Maybe I missed it. Maybe I missed it. Okay. Maybe I missed it. I saw some M&Ms, didn't know what that stood for. And regarding the budget, the last budget that we received, the numbers are different than the budget that we're supposed to be voting on tonight. Or at least it's the same amount, but the items have been moved. For an example, Jim was, in the last budget, was receiving a COLA, but it didn't show anything because I guess it actually was, they were looking at the COLA reflecting his contract increase. So that's been moved over now to other adjustments. FRS, I get it. You guys have inflated it. I get why you've inflated it, because you think that we may have to backfill a position. But typically what happens in any company or any place that I've ever been around, you don't get rid of positions, you get rid of people. Or it's going to be vice versa. If you get rid of the position, then you cannot rehire a person for the position that you got rid of. So we're leaving all of these benefits, dollars, just sitting there stagnant, which is inflating the millage rate any way you look at it. You can't have it both ways. You can't say, well, in case we have to hire another employee, we've got $90,000 there. It doesn't work that way. We've got 3 vacancies that are loaded up with benefits, and we don't know whether they're going to be part-time or even if we're going to hire anyone. Make the budget where you know, which typically happens, every department knows how many people they want to hire each year if they're eligible to hire anybody. And let me put it this way, I just want to be crystal clear. The problem with our payroll budget is that we literally do not have a pay scale. So what happens is somebody comes into work in Lake Helen and there's no pay scale. So that's why we've got the highest benefit rates that you can put on there, because we've got them at the highest salary. And we don't even know if we're going to pay them that salary. It's just someone walks in the door and you go, oh, gee, I like your smile, or whatever, and they get some enormous salary, or they get raises in the middle of the year that I'm not aware of until I start investigating. That's wrong. It should come before the commission. Money's being added in places that I'm not being made aware of. So this budget thing and this FRS, I get what y'all are trying to do, but it doesn't work that way. There was something else I wanted to talk about. If anybody else wants to talk, I'll maybe I can think about it.
If I could address the FRS.
We don't inflate in FRS. These are actual formulas dictated to us by the state of Florida.
I know that, Jim.
And when you budget a position, you budget for it. If the person doesn't come on until October, doesn't come on until December, then we only pay from that point on. But you still budget for the position as if it's full for October 1st. So there is no inflation. There is no padding of FRS.
What you've got here are vacant positions that are already lined up with the highest FRS or whatever. FRS, I'm very familiar with it. It's like for my rate, and I've spoke on this 3 times, and we keep tap dancing around it. The rate for my FRS pension that the employer has to pay, because I'm not in FRS, I'm already drawing a pension there. I'm not in the investment plan. What should be on that line for me as a person with a name in that position should be $581 a year that's paid by the employer. Every employer has to pay for every employee. And it depends on class. And it also depends on the gross pay. So you've got me double, you've got the mayor almost double. He's already on the pension plan. That shouldn't be, you know for a fact. Now, I do know that when y'all do your reporting every year, yeah, you're going in and you're saying, well, for Commissioner Donato, we're paying the $581. That's being reported correctly. But then what's happening to the other 512 or whatever's left over? That's what's supposed to be going in for any new employee that we're hiring that we really don't even know what we're going to be paying them.
No, ma'am. The line items for the commission are laid out. And we are required, whether you're drawing FRS and you're not eligible in the new ones, we are required to still contribute for you while you're drawing FRS.
I just said that,
And
$512.
Well,
That's what you're supposed to be paying.
Zach, can you answer the question in reference to the FRS now?
It's $512 is supposed to be paid into my account every year. I spoke to FRS, I've got the director's name, they're in the back office, you have to go through a senator to get to them.
Yes.
Okay, so what's happening to the other?
So we did address that, and it's in there in that bottom section. Basically, because we have the vacancy allowance. So we've walked through. I'll walk through it again for the record. But basically, because to make ends meet effectively, to get in balance, we have the $90,000 vacancy allowance in there. So basically, the budget is here's the authorized positions. Here's what the full burden would be for getting any individual circumstances, because an employee could come and go, that there can be changes that affect individual circumstances, and we're trying to budget based off of the authorized positions. While of course we still do want to consider individual circumstances, but we present, here's the authorized positions, here's the full maximum burden of those positions. Then what we want to do is consider, okay, what savings might we have? And that's where we have in the budget as the $90,000 vacancy allowance. So that is a negative expense. So if every position got filled on October 1st, at these pay rates, everybody stayed for the entire fiscal year, we're $90,000 in the hole. So it's not $90,000 to go add a position, it's the exact opposite, saying, we are assuming there will be vacancies in order to make ends meet. If we are fully staffed, we are going to be $90,000 in the hole. So then what we've done in here kind of to help illustrate it is said, hey, we have $90,000 in vacancies. We know of a couple circumstances, including FRS for the two of you, where we had a negative 1,239, which is 50% of the projected. And the reason that number doesn't agree exactly is we only know the current FRS rates for 3/4 of the upcoming fiscal year. The rates will change in July, so we don't know those. So that's why that doesn't just, if you did the math, that's not exactly half. We've allocated that there to say that, okay, $90,000 vacancy allowance minus 1,200. Also have a health insurance adjustment for Rick. We have a net vacancy allowance of $78,000. So factoring in those FRS savings that we expect to see, the health insurance reductions that we expect to see due to that arrangement in that individual circumstance, we still have $78,000 that if we did not have those vacancies, and obviously those positions aren't going to be filled on Tuesday, so there will be some there, but that's basically the way that we look at it and say that here's some of the vacancies or savings that we know that we are likely going to see. But it's really just that overall saying, hey, $90,000, about 5% of payroll is what we've said, hey, we think we'll have that in some degree of savings and vacancies, but that we, for illustrative purposes, say here's what the full burden budget would look like. Because in theory, again, that's what the structure of it could have if circumstances change or otherwise in terms of any positions where, again, those individual circumstances are different.
Well, you can't really say you know what it's going to look like because for some of these vacancies, you don't even have a projected payroll for them.
Correct, yeah, and that's what the budget is.
But also, let me just ask one question because I want to be crystal clear on this. That $1,021 on my line, that's added into the budget, correct? It's not deducted from the budget.
It's effectively deducted, we're assuming it as part of that $90,000 deduction. So we have to make up $90,000 in vacancy or other savings. So at this point, we have attributed that $1,000 as a portion of that $90,000 that we need to achieve before else we're in the hole.
So are you trying to make up with the vacancies on other line items? Because my calculation is if you're taking $1,021, adding it to the budget, and at the end of the year when you report to FRS, you send them a check for $518 for me, there should be $500 net, not negative.
Yeah, so what we would see, so let's assume you have your own line item just because it's, your cost is included with just the commission in total in terms of payroll, retirement. If we had a separate line item for you, and we were basically the way these numbers flow through, within the retirement line, we would be $500 under budget. And when you look at that in a vacuum. But we would then have a negative $90,000 expense line item in the budget, and that's going to have a zero actual, so that's going to be a negative $90,000 budget variance. When we go look at that vacancy allowance, it basically shows as a revenue. It's a negative expense. There won't be any number there. So if we kind of said on day one, what do we have in terms of budget versus actual, that line item, we're already $90,000 in the hole because we've assumed there will be $90,000 approximately of payroll-related savings elsewhere in the budget.
Well, could it be that, just from last year to this year with the budget, if you're talking that we've got a negative, could it be that just in 1 year, our payroll budget went up from last year to this year about $146,000?
That would probably be about accurate. Just from the gross burden, it's a couple $100,000, over that with new positions. I think your biggest impact on the payroll side is really twofold. That we have, of course, it's the two new positions, and then the police pension contribution going up significantly. that alone, compared to where we had that in the past and where that had been, that's probably about $100,000.
I didn't even look, because of them being union, I did not even look at PD. I'm just looking at everything else across the board.
Yeah, just
There's
the,
something that's not right.
But the PD is in this list of payrolls.
I know they are.
And their,
We've got it.
and their retirement contribution that we were short $100,000 is in there.
Which brings me to another point. Anybody who's in the FRS, it started back, I don't know, several years ago, prior to me getting out, where any employee in the FRS retirement system does cost sharing of about $100, I believe, per pay period. Are our employees paying that $100, or is the city?
it's 1% for the, so yeah, FRS is 3% for employees, the police plan is 1% for.
But there's cost sharing for the employees.
The employees are paying
$100.
3%,
For FRS.
separate from this. This comes out of their paycheck.
Sorry, yes, we're talking FRS or police. FRS?
FRS.
Yes, so, okay, then yes, what Jim said, the 3% employee share.
Okay.
Zach, can I ask you a question? You used to be our auditor, right? Okay, so you have an auditor's perspective of what you're doing as now our accountant.
Yes.
After you finish your business, then we have an auditor that looks over your business. And these are listings, are there, what do you call it, the regularly accepted accounting principles?
Gap, generally
Yeah,
accepted?
yeah. If, would you explain that to us? What does that mean? If there's some gap issue that comes up by looking over what you've done, could you explain that?
So the gap gets to the accounting. So in terms of the audit is an audit of the financial statements. So the audit's really focused on actual. In terms of here's the actual activity, generating the year-end financial statements, in terms of like pension liabilities, accrued vacation, there's capital assets, a handful of calculations to build out those financial statements on what's called a full accrual basis. So you've got your balance sheet as well as your income statement. So
Okay, but I don't want to get too technical. My question is that someone overlooks what your work is with our budget.
yeah, and the audit looks at,
So if there were some red flags that the legal auditor would find that you have done out of place, that you may have used a principle that was not regularly accepted, it would raise a red flag.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if they've been going through said, hey, this is very unusual.
And generally speaking, how many of those, what is it, when there is a referral or a remark?
A comment or
Comments, yeah. So we've been pretty much good on the comments. In other words, it seems like we are doing what we are legally required to do. We're not breaking laws, we're not moving any money in some hidden position. Am I correct?
Yeah, there's, I think, three or 4 years, I think there were, there's been no comments.
Yes, so we have an oversight that looks at what the budget has come to and the way that we are moving employees' incomes around. I'm just trying to hear it from the perspective of what we're doing is not somewhere out of line. We're not doing anything out of the ordinary.
Yeah, I would say that's accurate from the audit perspective. I mean, the audit would not get into the, and most of the how do we present payroll otherwise is what I would kind of say is more of a management tool, management decision versus a regulatory what's the compliance, because I've seen towns, we audit because while we have a growing amount of work that we help on the internal side, we audit 12 counties, 40-something municipalities, so that's kind of the bread and butter, the day job, so to speak. What we do in that is really just look at the process, and that's really high level in terms of the adoption, compliance at year end, in terms of was the actual spending in compliance with the budget. Getting into some of these, where I was going to mention is, there are some cities where they have a one-page budget. It's personnel costs, X, and it's very high level. And so, for instance, that is compliant with state statute. You could look at that, and I've looked at some, and I'm like, how do you guys know what you're approving? Because you've got a $2 million budget and there's barely any details. But they went through the proper hearing process. They said, here is the total expenditures in the budget, and then they just barely had any details. And so that's not a good management practice. But from an audit perspective, otherwise they would have met all of the statutes.
So if there was something that we would, as we're discussing now, and you're above my head with that, so I'm just trying to catch up. If there was something that would be brought up into the attention of the commissioners, I'm not an accountant, and most of us not, but if what is being asked about right now, if that were to be beyond your level to have oversight, not oversight, to give us a feedback. Okay, this is the question that was raised in our commission meeting, and just for the purposes of giving us a clarity of it, is there something or someone above you that you would make that request to? It's coming directly to you as our auditor, as our accountant.
I mean, it would really, the auditor would be if we want a totally independent perspective. And we have plenty of times where I'm on the auditor side and it's, hey, staff told us this, but we want to hear it from,
to get the feedback.
Yeah, so there's times that questions come to me in that capacity when we're in that role. So that would be if there was a kind of procedural concern or otherwise that, again, we wanted more independent.
And Mayor, on that, the auditor does not work for staff.
No.
They work for you. So they're checking what we do. When they come in, they're pulling pay periods, they're pulling invoices, they're matching in terms of that aspect. So those reports, while we may get a copy and they will show the findings, but we don't get to approve and ask them to change or reword or to soften in terms of that audit. They work for the board. They're contracted to you to give you that independent oversight.
Now, the question that I would raise is that when we got a new city clerk, she found out that the city hall staff was taking an half-hour lunch, and they were putting it on their income. It didn't get caught at yellow, but it got brought up by staff. So if that could be a problem that could get beyond the former city administrator, former city clerk, I mean, are there the possibility of those things happening? Is that minor? Or is this I think the way that you explained it when it was brought up is that it was something that was seen on a regular basis. So because it was seen on a regular basis, it was acceptable practice that we had that extra half hour. And it wasn't until our clerk, deputy clerk, found out that there was a discrepancy. So we internally found that. So I'm just, there's probably all ways of looking at it.
Yeah.
I think what we're doing here is to try to get to the place that we have to make sure that city's tax dollars are being responsibly held. But at the same time, we may have to make sure that we're not splitting hairs just for the purposes of splitting hairs.
And under wage and hour,
Excuse me?
under wage and hour laws, you don't even have to give an employee a lunch pay.
Well, yeah, we're past that. That was just brought that up. I just brought that up because it went on for so long without us finding out about it. And then when it got found out, it was like, oh wow, So nothing is infallible. I believe that we have enough human resources that we are. Money is money, but the human resource that we have is what keeps this city going. Our city police, our public works, our city hall. It's about people. It's a dollar amount, but it's also, we also have to be responsible in terms of how we are looking at basically humans that are doing a job that is probably in most cases are more than what we're actually paying them to do, but we get to work done. So that's just my personal. So we all have our own needs. Is there anything else that you want to do?
Yeah, I guess let's go back to the numbers have been changed around from when we voted the last time. Is that legal for us to do that? And I get Jim's moving his over to adjusted because we discussed that COLA. Of course, you know what my suggestion was on administrative, but has that been moved over under adjustments due to your contract?
I'm not under the same, I'm not under the same goal as the employees. It's in the contract, but that will not take place until September. The COLA occurs 1 year after the contract.
So what's the adjustment of 7,500? That's not COLA?
In where?
Well, it's on page 11.
Under other adjustments.
Yeah, so that's just the separate columns. If it was in COLAs, I don't know if it was in a actual workshop that we moved it, but that's basically, so that column is contractual and other adjustments. So the COLA column is just what's the COLAs calculated based on those percentages above. Jim's, I believe, is the greater of the COLA, or what's that, 6%? Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the contract.
Yeah, so since that's contractual, that's just moved over, just to have a little bit more distinguished. Whenever we have a change that's not the COLA, that's being called out separately. So if there is an annual adjustment or otherwise, it's not just buried where you don't see it as visibly because there's some other methodology to calculate that change.
Okay, so then there would be an additional amount. We're taking that $7,700 or whatever it was from the COLA, moving that over as an adjustment to kind of make it look part of the contract. But then come September, are we in September? Then the contract kicks in and you get another increase.
I do not get a 3% increase October 1st.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to find
I do not
out.
get an increase until February.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to find out. But is that filled in here? Because
That's
it's
the
still going to
70,
be.
I think that's the 7,500.
Yep.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to find out.
Yeah,
Okay, so I was correct in saying that in the beginning. You just moved it over to the contract, which is the line it should have been on in the first place. Okay. I think that's it for me.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. One, if we could go back to Commissioner Bishop's comments. I wasn't quite following the math. I was kind of jotting down when you were talking. But if you might clarify a little bit further for me, because you had the numbers in front of you and I was trying to keep up. So you said something about $296,000 savings. I guess if we
In a
did
3-year contract, if we did a 3-year contract with the mower people, which is what they asked for, that 3-year contract would be $296,202.
Oh, okay, I'm following you now.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I got it now, okay. And then the second number I wasn't following you on was the 308,000, give or take, to take over the water contract?
Well, that would be our savings in 3 years with the grass cutting contract, and if Ricky went back to doing the daily maintenance on the wells, like was supposed to have happened, that right there in 3 years would be $176,737.68, because we pay U.S. Water almost $60,000 a year.
Okay, so that 308 number was the mowing and water
Yes.
being taken over?
Yes.
Okay, I got it. And then I wasn't clear on what you're wanting to do with this. Were you wanting to hire the employees? Or
Well,
to
we can't do that
outsource it?
tonight, but hire the 2 new employees?
Right, I
For
wasn't
public
sure
works?
if you were in favor of that
No.
or outsourcing.
No, because we can save money by outsourcing, and then we don't need them, because if our guys are not cutting grass, they have all day, every day, to do building maintenance and everything else that needs to be done, and take over the daily maintenance of the wells.
Okay.
But if that's not going to happen, and the commission decides to go ahead and just willy-nilly spend money on whatever, equipment, outsourcing all of these things, painting, water pressure, or pressure washing, all of that, we outsource all of that.
So you
Because
want,
we spend too much time cutting grass.
so, okay, so outsourcing of the grass and not of the water.
No,
Just-
right.
Okay.
Well, we would still need US Water
wanna
to
make
do
sure.
monthly tests and stuff like that. But they
Okay.
should not be here 6 days a week doing daily well maintenance.
Okay, I'm following you now. Thank you for clarifying that information. And then Commissioner Donato, I was hoping that maybe you could clarify some of the comments that you had as well. I know you had some concerns about having more time to look at the budget, and so I'm hopeful that if there's, you know, a greater expectation than what we had this year, maybe we could communicate that to staff. What expectations are you looking for, and what more were we wanting to look into?
Well, I don't think that anywhere from 4 to 6 hours gives anybody enough time, because I personally didn't get to sit down and talk to Jim about every line item, don't know what's in there. You were in the same discussions I was in, so that's what we got. And it's just not enough. I mean, I know we've got to fluff the budget. Everybody fluffs the budget. So at the end of the year, hopefully, we don't look like we're bankrupt. But to answer your question, I think that anybody with a budget now that obviously just keeps rising and rising from year to year, should start looking at their budget in July and working on it and making sure that we're in tune with it all. Because, I mean, just like this year, we were at the drop dead day and hour to get it into Deland on August 4th. Because remember, I think we met like on a Wednesday or Thursday and had to get everything rushed in so it could be submitted for August 4th, just a couple of days later.
So just
Which also puts
more-
the land in a bind, because now they're waiting for us to get our paperwork in, and then they've got to go back and adjust.
Well, that's not accurate, because it was in time. They weren't waiting, and they didn't have to do any
It got in
adjustments.
on August 4th.
Yeah, so they didn't have to do any extra work whatsoever. But addressing your issue, Zach and I have already had extensive communication. It was a very unique year. To the benefit of Zach, he made partner. He got a 7-week sabbatical. Unfortunately, it fell in probably the worst time of the year that it could have happened. We don't have an in-house finance director. That's okay, because we can work out those bugs. We've already worked out the 25-26 budget calendar starting in April, so that in your July meeting, you will be setting the tentative millage rate in July. So there, in the budget calendar that we're going to bring to you to adopt, there is all of those little nuances that caught us this year will be corrected. But I want to be very clear. We did not miss any dates.
Thank you for clarifying that.
I didn't say we did.
I just wanted to make sure that, you know, moving forward, that if there were expectations that we were able to spell them out, so that I can do a better job at staff, you know, if it's needed, to do a better job in going line by line or whatever it was. So great. I don't have any further questions. Thank you.
On the mowing contract, I was under this thing that if we went to the contract, that they were not mowing everything, it was only certain parts. So that still leaves the maintenance department having to mow some of the stuff.
Yeah, we still mow all the right of ways. They do no right of ways or anything like that. And to be honest with you, 33 cuts a year, 33 cuts a year will not get it here. We mow the mark in the park every single week. And we try to be late, but we have to do mark in the park every single week. We probably mow this every single week. We mow at a certain time, depends on how much we have rain and everything there. Another comment Commissioner Bishop made about Carl, he gets no benefits at all. They just show up on his paycheck stuff. he gets 0.
Excuse me,
That I know of.
but if it's showing up on his paycheck stuff, then that
Then
is
they need to-
illegal.
then they need to read
And that could be a
It's
lawsuit.
showing on the budget.
We've already put a request in.
Yeah.
They can change it to.
That's paychecks. He gets nothing.
Paychecks. He doesn't.
He knows that. He's a part-time employee, so he doesn't get any of that at all.
Okay, well, it's
And
ridiculous.
it may be on there, but he doesn't get it.
Paychecks.
Well, that's no fault of his then, but we're also showing you that the budget.
Exactly.
And furthermore, on Commissioner Bishop about taking over the water plants, you're still gonna pay and absorb it, some kind of money for them to do all the testing and stuff.
The exact same thing we did when whatchamacallit.
But I wanna go back, if you'll allow me, before I was hired, you guys had hired a man from the land for almost as much money, I think actually more than Lee ended up trying to offer him to stay. He didn't even have a license, okay? I do all your operation repairs and stuff. I actually help you as we're out there doing that. I am pulled a million ways every day.
That's why I'm trying to help you.
If you want to help me, put the mowing out, hire 2 guys.
Put the mower out and hire a couple of
If you
guys?
want to help us,
If
it's
we
a
take the
lot.
mowing away, why the heck do we need 2 new guys?
We don't even get done, we're supposed to.
This
get
is
done.
2 square miles here. It's like, I mean, come on. If somebody's gonna do all of the mowing, it doesn't make sense to have 6 employees in public works.
But-
To me, it doesn't.
But they're not doing all of them, they're only doing on the parts, they're not doing the right of ways.
Okay, and a lot of our right of ways is county roads, and they do that. So,
No,
it's, yes.
not
Ron.
percentage wise, the
I said
county
that.
roads are maybe 20% of the mowing of the right of ways.
Okay, so you can't have, look, I know how often the right of ways get mowed. Not
Because they don't have the
Because you
time to
know
do
what?
them.
Most homeowners mow those right of ways when they cut their yards. I know I do, I know all of my neighbors do. They don't cut down at my property hardly at all. I'm just saying, y'all do whatever you're gonna do because you're gonna do it anyways.
No.
I just want it out there that this is what's happening in this town. Nobody wants to look at any way to save any money. And that's fine if that's what you want to do, but I will not be a part of that.
We are wanting to save money, but it's got to be in the
There's always an
proper-
excuse.
It's got to be in the proper context. And I mean, you came up with a lot of good things about things that you felt needed to be cut out of the budget and stuff like that. But what millage rate were you looking at going to?
I wasn't planning, we can go to rollback if we take all of this crap out.
A rollback would be able to survive on, we would be bankrupt by the end of the year.
Rollback would be 248,000.
Okay, and what did I say we could
And
save?
that's not counting the fact that we already took out hurricane and other items. We calculated interest rates, which are now going down, which could impact our income from there. I've got an email from Zach that if you put the budget back the way that it was and wanted to roll back, we're somewhere between $248,000 and $400,000. And we can sit here tonight and go through the line
We don't
items,
have to
and
go
you
roll back.
and you can tell us where to get the 248 or the
I just
400,000.
told you, I just laid it out.
It's over 3 years.
Why is it
But
that we
in 1
have,
year, well, go ahead. No, I'm done, because I'm so done with this, I'm done.
with everything that we've got going on in the budget, then we also are having to take out that $200,000 from ARPA to satisfy the budget, plus increase everything else. So what are we doing wrong here if we're having to take from ARPA and then
I don't think
move
we've
line
had
items
our budget
around?
in the last 5 years. That's why. And if we haven't screwed up and spent all that money on FEMA that we'll never see back again, that's another $200,000. The city just bleeds money, that's all.
Usually when you bring up an argument about cutting something, or if you got an idea on what you want the millage rate to be, and if you want it to be lower than 7.25, if you want it to be 7.0 or 6.75 or
Those 7.0,
6.5,
I don't care. Look, I don't have that, I didn't go that far into it. So like I said, y'all go ahead and vote for the budget. I'm not going to.
There's just gotta be a better way.
You could go to 6.5.
I think one of the things that, I'm sorry, one of the things that stood out is that, which was this year was an anomaly. You had an outgoing city administrator, you had an incoming city administrator, you had an outgoing city deputy clerk, you had an incoming deputy clerk, you had an outgoing mayor, and an incoming mayor. So, and then we also had a return of our city public works director who was without, the city was without for 21 months. And I don't think there's anybody that's captured the loss that we had by not having someone in that position that knew the job for 21 months.
Okay, it's been 18 months now.
Well, I'm just saying that while we had that gap that began before we got here, we are now trying to catch up. The reality of where we are right now is we have the budgets on the table. We've come to this place where we either, and I appreciate your candor in terms of letting us know how you're voting, but the reality is that this document that we have to present to the county is not only our document. When I don't know if you looked at your tax bill. I got my tax bill last month, and the municipality, which is the Lake Helen, we're at the bottom with the last one on the bottom. Above that, there are several taxing authorities, and those taxing authorities, they have budget meetings just like we do. And that's a good place to go, because at the bottom line is what's coming out of our pocket. Who gets that money out of our pocket are all of these other taxing authorities that are above us. And we're at the level here, and I think they say that all politics is local, where we can actually see our city administrator, see our city commissioners, call our city mayor, and we kind of have that little hands-on, touchy-feely kind of thing. I don't know the last time I've spoken to a county council person, an supervisor from the school boards. They're doing their thing just like we're doing ours. And bottom line, I understand that we're talking about the bottom line is what's coming out of our pocket.
We're higher than the land.
Well, in terms of the millage, what I'm saying that each one of the county taxing authorities are what's added to what comes out of our pocket. And my point is
It adds
that,
to what comes out of our pocket, but it does not add to our millage rate.
no, what I'm saying also is that we have the same opportunity to go to each one of their budget hearings like we are doing now. And I don't think people take that time out to do that as well, as much as they may should. We are ground level. People can come here and they can let their feelings be or their positions be heard. But we're a small town, and that's the reality that we have to keep dealing with. Ricky, Zach, please help me out here.
I was just going to offer it, this would be helpful to maybe give like 2 minutes of commentary, just high level kind of changes in the budgets. It's a valid question, kind of like why does this feel so different? If that would be helpful for everyone, I can just kind of try to hit a few things high level. Try to give like 2 minutes.
Have that?
All right.
Are we gonna be able to understand it?
Thank you.
So I think so. I'm trying to be like one of the basics I'm on head. So in total, the general fund budget from the 2024 budget to the current year budget, we have an increase of about almost $400,000 in total. What I'm going to do is basically back out fire, just because fire it's in the general fund, but it's really its own animal in terms of we have the fire contract, we have the fire assessments, and those have been kept one-to-one. So if we exclude fire, because that's about $100,000 of the increase, we're at $250,000 to $300,000 in terms of the total increase in the expenditure budget in the general fund. Relative to last year, without the fire, was about $3.15 million, If we took that as a percent, we're about a 7 or 8% increase in the budget. So just kind of to put that in perspective and say, if we take out fire and say what's there, just kind of operating costs, everything else, we're at about a 7 to 8 round figure percent increase, which is probably fairly comparable to what, just inflation in general in terms of why are some expenses going up aside from, the positions and the need is its own discussion. So we have a 7 to 8% increase there. Where I think we felt a lot more of the pain this year is on the revenue side. Because, I know we've talked about the mayor's always saying, what else, years ago, how else can we generate revenue? And the sad truth is there's not a whole lot of, we can't go sell beach parking to out-of-towners, things like that. There's not a whole lot in the way of other revenue. In recent years, the state money, because property taxes are 30-something% of our general fund revenue budget. A lot of the other money comes from sales taxes, gas taxes, just state revenue sharing. There's a formula at the state. Those revenues are probably a quarter, round figures, I'd say 25 to 30% of our revenue budget in general fund. One of the sticking points this year is the state basically said those revenues are going to be more or less flat. So here was a substantial portion of our revenue that in recent years, expenses may have been up 5 to 10%, and those revenues were up 10 to 15%. So it kind of gave us a kickstart, for lack of a better word. So the biggest piece was that 7 to 8% expense side adds, $200,000 to $300,000 to the budget. State monies are flat. Duke Energy, we're about $25,000 to $30,000 higher. But there was that major gap, and then of course the challenge is that we say, how do you fill that gap? Really, the only item that can be controlled to help cover that is the just kind of how it got there. I think when I look at a high level and say, well, what were the changes? Why does it feel so different? So hopefully that was helpful perspective.
Okay.
Last comment I want to make is that this year's budget, even though it had problems and it was shorter than what it really needed to be, was a lot better than the previous years when they were just wham bam, thank you ma'am, get out of my way. So, this year at least we had some good discussions on some of the line items, where in the past they didn't want to hear any questions. They just, oh, I got to get out of here, meeting here. And you didn't get to discuss anything. So I liked it this year better. Hopefully next year we get an improvement on it.
What's the last date that we have before we have to turn in the report to the county?
Monday.
Monday. That's what I thought.
That was something that came up too, because with the hurricane coming in, there was a concern that if the hurricane would have canceled this meeting, then we might have had to go to Friday.
Because it has to be in the evening.
Has to be an evening because people go to work. So if we'd have missed this meeting, it would not be able to take effect until Monday.
And other cities are doing their final hearing
Tonight as well. Okay. So we are part of the system now. Are there any more comments? Or any more questions?
Yes, I have one comment.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm not saying that we should do this. I'm just making a point. If we eliminated a line for one of the Public Works employees, the special event coordinator, and one police officer, that would be $159,274 in savings. Again, I'm not saying we should do that. But we're talking about outsourcing mowing. That might decrease our need in Public Works if we did that. I'm not sure how everyone else is feeling. I'm not trying to make assumptions. Same with special events coordinator. We have events that are going now. I know it's taxing on staff. Could it be something we could eliminate? I don't know. And a police officer, I think the general thought behind having an additional one was because of the Orange Camp Point project, and I'm trained up. That seems to have stalled out. Could we wait another year? It's just food for thought.
I think that's a good thought process. I think also added into that, if we add something else into that thought, this time last year, we had a Creative Arts Cafe, and we also had the gym group that we had given them the authority to manage it, so to speak. We don't have the gym anymore. We don't have the Creative Arts Cafe. We have $156,000 that's coming out that budget because we did not make compliance with the gym, with the Creative Arts Cafe. Moving people around like a chessboard is kind of, it's easy to move a person here, but if we don't have the things that bring people into Lake Helen on our biggest events are 4th of July, Christmas tree lighting, parades, and those things, and yard sales, okay? But those are things that, in terms of revenue, people bringing money into the city, we're sort of shooting ourselves in the foot in a lot of ways, that to look at one position and figure that one position is $35,000, but we have a 5K race that had, 900 people that came to the city of Lake Helen. We have...
And spent money where?
Well, sometimes you have to invest in the city that lets people know that we're even here. And that is the other thing that I've gotten a number of calls about property. People want to buy houses. Their houses for sale. Property values have gone from $150,000 2 years ago. Now you're asking for $300,000. It's one of those new buyers that comes into the city. They don't come with homestead exemption because they haven't been here that long. So they're squawking about how high the taxes are for them because they just got here. But we're smiling because that money can come to us. So we have to be managing there was this thing that Jim Collins said, managing our expectations. We are, whatever avenue where we are now, we have to keep looking forward. If we keep, I didn't, I'm sorry, I muffled my mouth. It was a saying they used to use when I was on the commission. But the bottom line is that we need to begin to look at the revenue streams that we are letting get by us. That building over there, that Creative Arts building, is just a white elephant sitting over there. And it's going to cost us money if we don't use it. So we have the events coordinator. So what does the events coordinator do? What does the events coordinator do? They do events, I assume. But if we just stay where we are right now and just keep everything the same, then we're going to wind up repeating the same, probably not repeating it, but I think with growth in a city like this, if everything stays the same, then it usually deteriorates a lot faster. If you want to keep everything at the way it was last year, then keeping it the way it was last year, next year you're going to be in worse shape. If the Creative Arts Cafe stays vacant for too long and don't have anything going along with it, we spent a lot of money putting in a septic system and all that kind of stuff. We need to have these meetings here should be talking about how we can bring more opportunities into the city as opposed to not having the personnel that would be available when we do begin to expand. It's harder to expand it's easier to I won't say harder or easy, but if you expand and you don't have the personnel to meet the expansion, then you're going to be short-sighted. We have our permit person. We are limited as to what she can do in the space that she has with the software and things that she has. if we had an influx of, let's say they sold, I'm just throwing a name out here, if they sold the pasture for whatever they're going to do with it, are we going to be able to accommodate a growth as to what that pasture is going to be? We got Luther coming on, supposedly online, with his assisted living facilities. What can that impact us? We have on the other side of the highway, we have what would have been the Auto Mall, now turned into the Live Local, which was what was offered to as soon as the Live Local came out in July, in the September meeting, and they had to call it the ADJOURNMENT School, the what's his name? Early had his lawyers in our meeting letting us know that the state just said that y'all have to provide us the ability to have affordable housing, and your structure or your comp plan does not allow for it, so you need to change it. And y'all changed it. I was sitting in Gleason. So you're changing to accommodate the possibility of more housing coming in. Now, I don't know if Hurley's going to use that or not, but the idea, maybe somebody else is going to use it for something else. But these are things that we're not dealing with now. We don't have those issues to contend with now, but I hope to have that problem, that we will have to have the ability to expand this economy and to be able to make those kinds of things happen. That's just looking ahead. We keep looking back and we keep going over the same old numbers and trying to keep everything the way it was. Then somewhere along the line we're going to miss an opportunity. That's just me. That's exactly kind of missing the fact that I keep bringing this up, that we don't have the capacity, we're not utilizing the capacity of the city to provide these residents. That must be. We're not using our time to come up with solutions. We are pointing out a lot of the problems, and that kind of makes us kind of like, it can get on your nerves. We can have very heated meetings, and the bottom line is that we are supposed to be the ones that provide the opportunity to give the citizens the confidence that what we are doing is in their best interest.
I spent all day working on my plan. What do you mean we didn't come up with solutions?
But you see, you have, and that's the other thing that we have to also contend with, is that there's a sunshine law that you can't call me up and say, hey, Vernon, guess what I just have figured out? We have to get in a meeting like this, and we have to come to the table with the paperwork that we have. We can speak to Jim individually, and Jim got his finger up, so I'm going to let him talk and I'll stop talking.
Yeah, I just wanted to reference, hello?
You go.
It was his that went crazy.
Yeah.
Just a reference to special event coordinator. Last year was budgeted 60. We have removed it to 12, which would be $1,000 a month. And we also have $16,000 in. So 16,000 and 12 is 28,000 between the two. So the city didn't want events and a special event coordinator. You can say 28,000 right there. If you want special events and no events coordinator, then that's going to fall on me, Roxanne, Debbie, and Aaron. Employees cannot volunteer for an event, so you will pay those employees for participating in an event. That's Fair Labor Standards Act, in the sense of you cannot force an employee to volunteer. So we're going to spend money, but that's also going to be at the deficit of something else not getting done. I'll give you an example. The stress buster, because we've heard nothing about that. I've already reached out to the company, and I've made myself the contact. We've already taken steps to put the list together for sponsors, who we would need to reach out to and who to contact. He's told me what he needed from the city, his bathrooms and police. We already got that coordinated with Robert and Ricky. We're ready to go with letters if necessary in reference to the sponsors, and then provide the 4 of us as volunteers on that day for check-in and registration, because I'm not going to be left flat-footed with somebody dropping the program and going forward. So if you want events and you don't want me to coordinate them, let me know, because then I need to coordinate that into people's jobs descriptions in order for us to get those done. And we've had those internal discussions. But if you don't want events, we can save $16,000. We can save $19,000 that is budgeted to pay the race company. And we can save the $12,000 in the position. But I get the impression this community likes its events. It likes those key events and bringing people out. So either we do them as staff at a cost, so you're not going to save $12,000 because I'm going to have to pay those employees. And if they come in on December 24th, I'm paying them time and a half to come in and to participate on those events. So you need to tell me, are events important to your community, the overall culture and the environment? Or are we just focusing on public safety, streets, hurricane preparation, and mowing, and we get rid of all the fluff?
Well, I thought Karen was handling most everything.
Who?
Karen?
Karen.
Yeah.
She's
She
done.
terminated her contract.
Karen is terminating as of the end of this month because
See, I never hear anything.
Yeah.
Nothing.
That was the dark.
she was actually going to terminate after the 4th of July activity.
It'd be nice to get
We
some
talked her into
information.
staying to the end of the budget year.
And that's another example
Get
of,
to a meeting and talk to an idiot, saying, oh, gee, Karen.
Well, Lynn, that's not information that comes to the city administrator. That might have been, that's not information that came to me. That may be discussions between Karen with the market and what have you. So those aren't official in reference to me. So I've not withheld any information from you or any
That's
other
good to
issue.
know, because I don't get much information.
well, we asked for discussions. We made,
Can I ask one more
yes,
question?
please.
How much money was it, 170,000 that we needed to be able to stay at the 6.5? So what would it take to put us at the 7 point? And I thought that Commissioner Rutledge brought up some
I think the
some
millage,
good items.
the millage was about $90,000 back. A mill? It's like 90,000.
All about dropping it 2.5 mils
So it's about 50,000. Right.
0.25.
or 0.25 mils.
Yeah. So 25% of 90,000.
Yeah, so the 0.25 would be about 50,000. Oh, wait a minute.
now we can't capture that in terms of what it would impact our city's overall events, or, I mean, we can't capture that. I mean, when I say we can't capture, we can capture it on the budget. You can move a dot, you can hit your calculator, come up with a dollar figure, but we can't necessarily say what that dollar figure will cost the city in terms of just having the opportunity for people to come to our city to spend money wherever they spend money.
There's no place to spend money.
It is, you're absolutely right. Say that again. Speak.
There's no place to spend
There's
There
money.
is no place to spend money in Lake County. So because there's no place to spend money, there's no place where money can be given a revenue stream that we can basically use.
Well, there is, you just have to know where to look.
But you know, the businesses come here, they see the market park, and that's the biggest deal that they see. So we we need to do a better job. We need to do a better way of both reaching the community out. And I think one of the things I give much credit to the 5K. I've been running for, I don't want to tell you how long, but over the period of time that I began running and this last race that I saw, it is a turnkey operation. They throw the balloon up, they have the timers, they have the events, you get your medals 20 minutes after your race is over, and they do the whole thing. It used to be a time that we would more or less try to put it together ourselves. And I give credit to former Vice Mayor Ann Robbins that came up with this idea. She's not even a runner, but it brought a lot of people and attention to the city, and up until the point that it didn't, and that's why I think I want to be able to have at least the understanding is when it didn't work, it didn't work. In other words, we had a promoter that did not, he left with the money. So, and that was on a hardship that I know it did bother Ann a lot, because she's a very fiscally responsible person. So I can give credit also, give credit where credit is due. Former Commissioner Kelly Prescott picked it up and did a number. And in the racing events, if they keep evolving, we now have the veterans post. What's that thing? Leprechaun. So those are things that came out of somebody's idea, and I give credit, like I said, to where it's due. Ann Robinson came up with an idea. She took it to as far as it could go. Kelly picked it up and did it from there. Roger and his organization, they picked it up. So each time people come into our city and see, other than the newspapers' portrayal of us being like a bunch of wahoos, I think it puts us in a better light. That has a dollar sense, that has a value that you can't capture in dollar and cents. That the city, people don't look at the city of Lake Helen. And I go to a lot of events, I'm gonna tell you, I go to a lot of events. And just by saying I'm the mayor of Lake Helen, it does give us, oh, there's the mayor of Lake Helen. Not that it does me any big justice, but I want to be able to represent the city and be able to represent the city in a positive manner. I hate to hear the things that get put on the social media and newspapers, and I hear it, like I said, hear them, I didn't read them. I hate to hear the things that we get put on, and we have the best product around us. There is no city that has what we have. Whatever DeLand is doing, they got people climbing and packed on top of each other. Whatever Deltona's doing, they got people packed on top of it. We're this little island here. We need to figure out how we can get people to come in, enjoy what they find, spend their money, and go back to where they came from. I've been saying that for the last 10 years. So, the budget, it is what it is, as someone I heard once say. So, yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Rutledge, you had some really good ideas a while ago. Can you see anything in there to kind of slash 50,000?
Well, I was running some numbers really quickly, and I'm wondering if Zach might be able to plug this into the page 11 wages for us, just to see how much it impacts. But we've got budgeted for public works, 2 maintenance workers. I'd hate to cut someone out of there. If, we can always talk about that later down the road if it's needed, if we do the mowing or, whatever the commission wants to do. But to cut it out and not plan for it seems like a bad idea, if I'm being honest. So if we could plug in the number instead of $20 an hour, maybe to reduce to 18. And the same for police officer. We're budgeting at, as they're not as good as they used to be, 2142. We could reduce down to 20. And I think that pulls the FICA and Medicare down on the public works to 2027, goes down to retirement, etc. I don't know that it's gonna say it's 50 total, but we may be able to reduce down some by like 0.1 mil or 0.15 mil.
Just to clarify, so for the public works, was it one or both?
Both.
Okay, so,
We have two, looks like two vacant positions currently. We're holding space for at $20 an hour. If we reduce that to 18, and then the one police officer we currently don't have, unfortunately, same conversation there. Need to cut that, but it's budgeting at 21.42 if we reduce that to 20.
I believe the police officer, is there a new one? I think those are all currently filled.
I think we have.
Okay.
Yeah, we did recently get a vacancy.
Okay. So one, to go from 20 to 18 would be about $5,000 per position on the public works. Sorry, just making that as we go. And then the police was, which one?
The bottom line,
2142 to 20?
Are you calculating?
I was going to say, Mayor, could I ask the chief?
Yeah.
I'd like to give it a comment, just in the sense of
I was going to.
what we lost the officer for.
Yeah, but what I was getting ready to say, it had to do with the police. One thing about the police, it's not a profit to the city financially. The police department is not a profit maker. It does alleviate a lot of problems, but also if they're not doing their job, it can cost the city. We have a police department that I feel is doing their job. I don't know what we're doing now in terms of reserves. That used to be a big ticket item that used to come through. We had a lot of reserves, and my issue about the reserves, I always had an issue with that, because when you go out there in the street, you put on that badge, you put on your gun, the fact that you're a reserve officer, that you're trying to keep your police certification intact, so that if you do get the chance to get called by the police department, you are now keeping your 1 year space that you're operating as a police officer. But you take the same risk as a full-time officer.
We have reserves. What are reserves? It would be foolish to use a reserve is to say this is going to fill in gaps that we have. They're not paid, they come in when they can, but they're doing the exact same job. I would never use a reserve to fill in that gap or to rely on reserves, let's say, to fill in that gap. So, yeah, we did have an officer leave. We let because of a pay issue, $7 an hour difference in pay, keeping it in foolish not to. To bring somebody in at $20 an hour, you're not going to find an officer. They're having the sheriff's office is down 30%. You cannot get police officers to work in the state of Florida. It is extremely difficult. Nobody wants to do the job anymore. The political environment is horrible. It's just not a lucrative job to do. We pay $20 an hour. We're getting the body of the barrel. And that person is probably going to be here. We'll spend thousands of dollars on equipment. We'll train them. They'll go right back to another department, and we will be in this infinite loop of just hiring a new person. So with the officer leaving, that's put us back to a skeleton crew. So what we mean by a skeleton crew is I have enough officers to cover shifts, but they take vacation, they call in sick, they have their time. And so when I have a skeleton crew, that means now we have to pay overtime. So if I have officers that are taking 3 weeks on average off a year, and I got 5 officers, that's 60 weeks. You add that with a time and a half on there, that's 90 weeks, I'm sorry. Help me out with the math, 60 days, how many is it? Anyway. So yeah, that would be 3 weeks per officer, 15 weeks, you add that by half.
Can you?
Another 7.5 hours, that's 23 weeks of overtime that would be paid just to cover.
So what are you telling us in terms of the pay? Just,
We need to be at that 2142.
Okay.
That's what we need to be at.
okay.
Chief, just because I'm not aware when you guys unionized, is there a minimum in the union contract?
I just have to ask them, I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think
That
so.
would be my next
The only
question.
talk that we had was to bring Trevor up to the 21, and when we did our contract with him.
Yeah, that was back then, but, and when we got the officer, it wasn't because of the auto mall. There were 2 officers that we were wanting to bring in. We cut that down to 1 officer last year to get ahead of the curve. As I said, if something does happen where we have the growth where we need the officer, and we're paying 20 an hour or whatever, we need to hire 2 officers, you're not gonna have that. It's gonna be very difficult. That officer has to be trained. That takes months to train.
Understood. I'm just, no
I
stone
completely
unturned,
understand.
no stone unturned, right? It wouldn't be incumbent upon us not to have this discussion openly, and I appreciate your input, and really, we're kind of shaking the trees right now,
Yeah,
and thank you for
I did.
telling us.
I mean, I would love to
clearly.
have 2 officers a shift. You know,
Appreciate that.
2 officers a shift is really what needs to be. There's very big police departments that have 1 person working by themselves. And unfortunately, we have that here about 25% of the time. But I understand that we can, bring on 8 full-time, 9 including myself. So,
But isn't it true that we have backup support from the county? And the calls go to the county first?
well, here's the thing. Once an officer gets a DUI arrest, he's off the street for 45 hours on a DUI arrest.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we have backup, but that still doesn't give us the coverage. So if we call backup, they're gonna come and back us up. They're not gonna take over our calls. They're not gonna do our work for us. They're just gonna back us up, just like we back them up.
They're just gonna go sit and watch you write a ticket for
If we
DUI?
have a fight call and we got 1 person on, they're gonna come and they're gonna back us up for that fight call. It's an officer safety, they're not gonna make any arrests. They're not gonna charge anybody. They're not gonna further investigate something. That's gonna be our call. So if the officer is busy, if he's in the jail on a DUI, and we get a domestic situation, the county's gonna come here, they're gonna secure the scene until we come back and then do our work and do our investigation.
Do you get out on the road?
Yes, if I get it, if needed, absolutely.
Just so you know that the 26 zone, which is what we're in, they can no longer fill. Just throwing it out there, this happened recently.
But
The 26 zone is what the zone that we're in, there is no deputy for 26 zone. They can't cover, they don't have enough deputies. 25 zone, they just switched it to the Berry. I'm sorry, 26 zone, they switched it to Berry to fill the Berry in. 25 zone unit, they used to work one of our zones over here, which is the next zone over. He just quit because he said that this career is not for him. They had 3 deputies quit just on our side of the county from Millage County.
what was the reason for it?
He said this career wasn't for him, wasn't worth it.
Oh,
So they're dropping off all the time. The only reason I bring that up is because when it comes down to when you say they can back us up, they can back us up if they can. We run a lot of shifts that they're running 3 deputies for the whole entire, and District 2 is the biggest, which is what's our district, is the biggest land district in Millage County. And they're sometimes running 3 guys. We're helping them sometimes with cascading and stuff to just help them out, to run some of their calls. I mean, in lieu of that, they come and help us out when we need it. Obviously, we don't have 5 people to go into a house that somebody wants to go with a gun, so we get the return for it, but I just let you aware that that's been the way it's been for the last couple of years is with them, is that they can't keep their zones full.
And just to speak to that, this is where it's been for the last couple of years.
Everybody's down, when the city's down 5.
And because you don't see it on your budget, when you have to show up at a scene and you don't have backup, it changes your perspective. The fact that we are looking at individuals, Roger's a firefighter, law enforcement, it is hard to get people to work for the salaries that we are offering. And being the small city that we are, that is the only reason, the majority, I'll say the only reason, the majority of what I've learned about the citizen, about the employees of this city, they're here because they love the city. This is not a paycheck that you show up for. You are here because this is your city. And you can't put a price tag on that. You can't diminish that either. Well, you're here because you like our city. Can you want to be here and take less money? You're here because you like our city. Would you like to be here and take more risk? You don't get any more money on your check when you go and you knock on the door, you stop a car, you don't get any more money. And each one of those outcomes can be just as deadly as you just walking in the street. So I'm sorry, this is not a new conversation for me with regards to the offices, with regards to staff, with regards to our public works. This has probably been I've got 3 lawnmowers are not working because I cut my own grass. It's raining so often that you can't really, I don't know how you guys do what we do, but we do get it done.
I'll just say one thing in perspective.
Sure.
That when doing with the mid-shift, it's very beneficial here to have somebody around, because I'll tell you before that, I've been in 3 fights with Marcel Frazier, and when I was off duty. And it just happened to be that I was driving by the store, happened to look over to see him in an argument, and stop at the store where it turned into a full-on battle with somebody that was hooked up on meth or whatever they're on, and even had firefighters come help us to get them down. So it is beneficial to have that person close, because it does happen, and sometimes it just stops it from happening. When you're on your own, people say, hey, I can take him. And there's 2 of you that are like, hey, oh no,
I
you get one, but not the other.
I hope that none of the comments today are taken in a way that I don't think that we need this person. I do think we need another officer, and I appreciate what y'all are doing in public works as well. I know that these jobs are very important. I just think that it's important that we have the conversation here too.
No, absolutely.
I know y'all are out there doing it.
I just came up because on our end, it's like anything else. If you do a career that I'm not in, you look at perspective a different way than others.
Absolutely.
And, when we're out there, we look at different things. A lot of people say, oh, it becomes boring, nothing happens. But a lot more happens than more people think. We just don't publicize a lot of it because a lot of people don't need to know what's going on, because then they want to ask too many questions we can't answer anyway.
Valid point, thank you.
Thank you. That's definitely.
Before you go, Chief. Yeah. On staffing levels, the fire service uses the NFPA standards and the NFA standards on firefighting to determine what levels per engine is needed and stuff for a community. What does the law enforcement group use for their national study?
I don't know what it's actually called, but I know it's usually 1 officer for 1,500 citizens, I think is so if we had 3,000 citizens, that would be 2 officers a shift.
So it doesn't come from like, what's it, big
I'm
training
sure
FBI place
it,
that
I
they've
just
got?
don't- I don't know what I couldn't tell you what it is.
Oh, okay.
It might be an FBI study, but I don't know what the actual name would be.
Oh, okay.
I think law enforcement grants that, at one point in time, they had a lot of surplus military paperwork, material coming in. Are there any other grants that are available for police departments that?
Or, it depends, for what?
Well, for whatever that can be put in to the category.
Not for hire.
Not
Not
for hire.
No, you might be able to find like equipment grants here, but once again, you're a smaller department. So if you're just asking for one thing, probably not.
But if you got equipment, then that comes out of your budget, right?
Yeah.
So if we could provide you with more equipment, better equipment, that would.
Which I have already taken, but yeah, we've gotten better equipment, so.
Are you, what do you think about body cams or?
That's looking into down the road. There's a significant cost factor in that.
It's a cost factor, but it's also a savings, because each officer that winds up with one of those on him, it could make the difference between.
Sure, but you can see what my equipment budget is this year, or for next year.
Okay, okay, so.
And it's not the cost of the body cam.
Yeah.
When it comes.
No, it's the data.
It is, and when it comes to the body cam, it's not we just use it whenever we want to use it. It has to be used 24/7. So if you have it, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. The day you don't have it on, and it happens, they malfunction, they don't work, and agencies that have that, it automatically does something. You know, they get a complaint about something with the body cam didn't work, they're gonna immediately go to, oh yeah, they turned off the body cam. But these body cams, they don't last.
Now,
They're not
What about dash cams?
What do you mean?
Dash cams.
No, we don't use body.
How do you feel about dash cams?
They would be body cams, so I wouldn't use dash
You
cams.
would don't, okay.
No, the dash cams is only gonna cover what's in front of the police car, 90% of our is outside the police car.
I got you.
Yeah.
This question?
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Could I ask to go back to the special events and those numbers, just so that I know we're kind of shotgunning, so we get some clarity on how do you want to go forward? Do you want city events? And do we want a coordinator, or do you want city events, and do you want staff to take on that responsibility?
Well, I thought we had a volunteer that was doing that run. And now I hear that City Hall's gonna be doing the run.
If we don't have, well, because we've heard nothing on the run, I made a call to the company just so I wanted to make sure there was a contact, because I didn't want to find out come November, somebody calls up and said the city was supposed to do X, Y, Z. So I now know what they expect from the city. And that is, we did the sponsors, we coordinated the bathrooms, and we coordinated the police. They did everything else. We provided a few volunteers for the registration and the day of, in terms of that aspect. So the impact to the city is very minimal, but if we need to take that over, we've already talked about it internally in staff. We can do that. I went ahead and already put a list together of every sponsor from last year. I researched their addresses, their contact information, and then I've even added additional sponsors for companies that we've contracted with since then. So if need be, we're ready to send out letters to sponsors and to do that. Roxanne, Aaron, and Debbie, and Rick and the police know what they need to do. So if we don't have someone running the race, staff can take that.
Did you say there was a $16,000 on our budget?
It's $19,000 to the company.
Is the $19,000 going out, but we do have a return?
What they return to us is just the registration from the runners. And right now, when I talked to them last week, there's about 51 people signed up. Now, that's early, because there's other races in between. They turn over the runner money to us, but we pay them, and it's minimum $19,500. If the runner numbers go up, and the number of shirts go up, and the number of medals go up, and all of that, that cost increases. And
So success is built into it. If it's successful, then it'll cost us.
yeah, we're netting about $6,000 to $7,000 when it's said and done. And most of the money that's coming to the city is coming from the sponsors, because even though we get the race money, we're spending $19,000 to them, so that kind of washes even. So the money the city is making is off sponsors, and that's hoping that those sponsors who sponsored in the past would still do that at the same level. But we've got that list ready to go. So, I mean, because I don't want to find out in November, this commission asks, where are we at? And I have no, because we've had no contact whatsoever on anybody doing anything. And when I talked to the gentleman from the company, he hasn't heard from anybody either. So he's got now my name and number and contact, so we can at least make sure there's coordination going on.
Thank you.
The biggest amount of money on those type of events is made from the sponsorships. So the more sponsors you get, it increases your chances of having more come in. But then you, out of those sponsorship, the money's got to, most of the time, it's been designated for an item like parks or some park improvement or something.
Yeah, I would need the commission to give me what they wanted to, so when the letter went out, we could tell the folks this is what was going on.
And then there's also other costs that the company doesn't cover that the sponsorship money ends up covering. So probably about 20 to 25% of your sponsorship money actually goes in to help pay some of the costs of running the event. And then the balance is what you get to, towards what you're raising a fund funds for it.
Does anyone need a break?
Can I just ask them,
Before we
we're at this point,
Yes.
does the sponsor stay at 12,000 and the money for the race stay?
As far as
I would leave
Yeah,
it
leave it like it
how
is.
it is. Yeah, I wasn't aware
Okay.
of the period.
Because that 12 isn't just the race, and even though that person has agreed to step up and be part of that and add it to what was their traditional role of Halloween and Christmas, and they do market in the park and July 4th and what have you, so we've had some very positive discussions in the sense of making sure that we don't get caught short.
Maybe I'm confused, are you talking about the event coordinator?
The $12,000 event coordinator, do you want to eliminate that, or does that stay? Because if it goes, then all of that will fall on staff.
The only reason Karen was talking about it was because of all the headaches and everything that's turned into doing all the events. She enjoys the market in the park, which is actually her biggest income maker for the city. It's the headaches with all the events and everything. If she said if they want me to continue doing that, then they're going to have to come up with some sort of salary thing. But she doesn't need a lot. That's why she asked for such a low salary to do it.
And then when I had a conversation with her, she said, she wouldn't take a salary, she wanted to go ahead and continue to volunteer. So.
It must have been an early conversation.
It was about, probably last year.
A lot has happened since then.
Yeah, it was last year.
Yeah, a lot
Not
has happened.
surprised. Why can't we keep it the way it is? I mean, because if you put her on payroll, then we're back to, is she gonna be part-time?
Yeah, no, $12,000 is part-time, there's zero benefits, there's no FRS, there's no insurance.
And she's making about that now anyway as a volunteer.
She gets a certain amount, and then right now she's getting a percentage of the
She gets a
market.
percentage of the
So
market.
all that would change that for her.
Market Park is a percentage of it, and the Market Park, as of late, has gone down. The attendance has gotten very
The summertime always drops off.
Yeah.
When snowbirds come back.
cyclical.
We also had a thing with Osteen opened up and marking some of the vendors went down there to the
Yeah.
Osteen.
Quick question about that line. It says hourly, but it sounds like it's an independent contractor.
Yeah.
May need to
And
update
the-
that.
The benefit of having,
The only, I was gonna say, the only thing she asked, this is only if she were appointed. I mean, that decision hasn't been done, so I know we're talking about that, but just the fact that if it was done through the city, FICA and insurance or tax and all would be taken out. So that was only the concern, that she would, if she took that, she would like the city to be able to handle that, so she would be considered part-time, but with zero benefits, just being paid at $12,000. We would take FICA, withholding, and that out of there.
But if she works 30 hours, she's gonna, that's basically not part-time anymore. We went through that with the Sharon Hall deal.
She would be contracted at $12,000 a year.
contract.
And that wouldn't be hourly.
And the upside of the contract is that a lot of the, like say for the Easter eggs, a lot of it's coming out of, it wasn't we paying for that, or was that she was providing that?
Some she was providing. She had sponsors that would provide some, but the city paid quite a bit into it.
So, yeah,
And she-
there again, that's the ability to have someone who likes what they're doing and then not chasing a dollar, and then that person can't be replaced with somebody who will have that same kind of,
In talking with her thought process is that if she's classified, then a letter can go out on the city letterhead, and it would make it more official, so that when she's requesting a sponsorship, not just for the race, but for the other events, it's kind of under the guise of the city, not an individual looking for sponsorships.
Some of the events they would also, if she advertised them, I think she was saying that the newspapers where they would advertise, they would, if she didn't have any connection with the city. She just couldn't say, we're having a city event and not have it adjusted. Right.
So it seems like this has probably already been
Okay.
determined because of software, she did get some business cards. So it's not gonna go out for bid. This one person that's been doing it, and I don't have a problem with that. I do have a problem with some other things, and that's pretty well known. And I think that there should be some consideration to that.
So before we take the break, can we have a vote on this? Because we got to do a budget.
We're on the millage.
We're in the millage, so we're going to do the millage.
And we already got.
And we have a motion.
And we got the second, we've been in discussion, and
So we're in the vote.
nobody's offered an amendment to the motion, so we're still on the motion.
Okay. So we got a motion and a second.
Yep.
Okay. Can we take a vote?
I'm agreeable to
Want
that.
to do it by zone, or what's that?
Well, I'll do willy-nilly, like I normally do. Zone 3,
No.
zone 4,
No.
zone 1,
Yes.
zone 2.
Yes.
Me. I vote yes. And we'll take a break at this moment.
Oh, Mayor,
Yes, sir.
we did make a mistake there. Did you have any card for anybody to speak before?
No, I have one card for the budget.
Okay.
And then
And then I have one for a yellow card.
Okay.
So no, we have nothing.
Just to make sure we didn't cut somebody off.
We did.
Okay.
Now, he checked at the beginning when we started the discussion.
Thanks. I just knew a card came up. I didn't know.
Yeah, it was a public comment.
Stressful things.
Some of them are getting to the point of,
It's the commission's
they're
job.
almost at 10 minutes, and
They represent
they
us.
are tracking.
They represent us.
I just worry
I
about
mean-
like small government in general, again,
Can afford that.
we're at least not like small, there's probably 100
And it's not
towns,
just,
small
it's
towns,
not
so
just.
Yeah.
we're good for now, but just the way everything changes, and the really small from, I don't know, 5 years
It's a
ago,
lot, it's a lot.
because they just can't keep up. Because all the small ones, you know, rural ones, they got some revenue issue.
Because you know what?
That everybody's getting hit.
Sometimes they do, I'm telling you, from the year past time.
But they
I'm
go.
talking about the school board and stuff like that.
Daisy calls everywhere.
I'm talking about the school board and stuff, and the St. John's, and you go there, nobody goes.
I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. Board, our kids don't go to school there.
They did.
I mean, that's my thing.
Oh, I've got work. Other than that, I'm doing great. And my wife died, other than that. So you haven't asked me too bad things.
I see you walking and everything.
Well, I haven't been walking for a while.
Yeah, you were.
You were for a while?
You were for a while with your friend.
He hasn't been out for a while.
2 miles every morning. Good morning.
You ain't been out for a while.
Phil, it's painful to walk.
Are you doing better now?
No, not yet. I'm trying to get better.
These seats don't help, do they?
I was like, I could hear 5 minutes.
They don't.
My goats that-
It's not a good night to be out. It really isn't.
You might want to take a look at that. See when you're in the room. I mean, it's got a section that's starting to fall now.
Nancy Leary.
Yeah. He's got a section now where the paint's peeling down.
Yeah, so Eric's gonna come look at it, and see what's going on. Maybe do the roof on, to the
It's been a while.
Yeah,
It's been a while.
it could be like up near the peak and just running down, and that's where it's pulling
Now
it.
that City Hall, that dormer, and come down,
Most of the time.
he's gonna come by next week, and we're gonna see, he'll be able to determine.
Compromise, that's what life is about, right?
Yeah, I've seen that, Rob, and I've been watching it, see the guy that's doing it.
Remember the first time I saw you speak, you would appeal DRC meeting. You had, did you serve in San Antonio? Yeah, I was born and raised in San Antonio. My grandfather was Mr. Morrison, then he was familiar and used to own a Ford dealership down there. So, yeah, when we hear somebody say, oh, so-and-so from Seminole County, I'm like, oh, yay. It's a little bit different there than here.
That's what I just
Different. Because I like it, yeah.
Well, that's what I just said.
I've loved it. I've been in 25 years ago. It's unbelievable.
There's a lot to like. There's a lot to like. Hopefully it can stay that way. Yeah. Which
I've been here
seems,
57 years, almost 50 years, I've seen it change, all my life, I've seen it change when I was little, all the way, from the top of those in there, and Alabama, and all that, and the store.
Really, as properties currently in theory,
extended borders and, you know, it's not a
because
rural
the
town.
way you
just
look at it is there is the Catskill Valley
Generations of families and kids,
and
see
then
the
there's reductions for homes that remember the meeting and
school.
So it's theory looking out what there would be and probably see the kids grow up and see like our total assessed value is X.
You see the families continue on, and that's probably because they
Is
One of the things that I
Y
started noticing,
tax on Z.
my girls or my kids
The
are older,
Y for
is you
us
see their
being
friends
residential
grow
is
up.
there and what's
And
the
now their friends are grown up. And it's like, one time,
My son turned 16 yesterday.
Oh,
My
wow.
daughter's 26. I mean, it's just an amazing thing. It's like yesterday, I was in the hospital with her and then him, you know, it's just like, it goes so, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, there's an exemption for this, there's an exemption for
I
that.
just don't remember the first day coming to work and doing all that.
No,
But
kidding.
it's been a long time.
Yeah.
So we like to get rid of that, and we're like, oh, what's wrong with it?
It's like this limited to, I don't know how to talk to Mr. Trax at all.
Oh, yeah.
I think I'm gonna have to plug this in.
Towns that have that.
Oh, there's a plug. I don't know if that plug's going there.
They didn't look like that.
Well, yeah, it's really real. And we can just assess, yeah.
I make sure I brought my sweater.
Yeah, I mean, it's, the audit, it's a Florida change function, let's see who's one of the bigger ones, so it's really good.
What are we doing? staff tomorrow? We do staff tomorrow.
Okay.
Judge still on?
Yeah. I'll put that in.
We're gonna do it now?
Yeah.
We're gonna do it now?
Lay down after, off.
It's gonna go in the, it's gonna go in the.
We have to say, Lake County basically does or does not participate in a program. If it does not, you have to kind of detail, here's the program administrator and some other information. Part of the issue is because it's so, this the state's like, we have no record of who are the police administrators. So they were like, so they got a lot of
Okay, thank you.
It was so close to you come to it.
So, administrator, we have, mayor motion and second and approval of the
Millage.
millage.
Now you
So
have.
now we're in the second part of it.
Yeah, you have the script on the budget.
This is the public hearing on the budget. We're recognizing any citizens who would like to speak. I only have one card, and it's Mr. Feather.
Do we need to have a reading of the resolution?
Yes, we do.
I'll go ahead.
We do.
Mayor, can you read any opening, whatever?
Okay. Is that the tax authority? Oh, no, it's not here. The tax authority is the city.
The middle.
Oh,
Does it read this or the?
I think you got the small script
You're gonna announce the public hearing on the budgets in the
Yes.
square? That
right
motion.
there.
Where it is.
Okay.
That's correct.
Right? Ready?
Here's the.
Okay. We announce the public hearing is now open. Recognizing citizens who would like to address. Commission addressing first. Mr. Feather?
I'm Robert Feather, and I love Lake Helen.
Amen. Thank you.
I love Lake Helen. My wife is now deceased, and I bought 65 Macy Avenue 25 years ago. It's an acre and a half with about 318 feet on Lake Mason.
Could you push that button?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good. It's been a fabulous place to be for 25 years. It's a quality place. Somebody should have another Founder's Day, like we had a few years ago. Who always here for Founder's Day? Nobody? Wow. It was a fun time. I'm sorry you missed it. I'd like to take just a minute to reminisce a little bit. I've had a ball listening to you all because you are doing the cement foundation for what the whole city runs on and about with the one procedure.
Just for clarification, if this is not budget, this would come in the end under other comments. This is specifically the comments involving the budget.
Oh, okay. We're kind of jumping ahead of the game.
Oh, what do you want to take more than 3 minutes?
3 minutes?
Yeah.
Have yourself.
I just wanted to reminisce a bit about, because I spent so much time doing budgets, and enjoyed it so much. My claim to fame, of course, is, I was told by others, is I used to carry Walt Disney's briefcase for it. And David had sending reports when I was lead man at the Gas Control Department for It's a Small World, listening to UNICEF at the World's Fair. And they asked me when I graduated from the University of Florida to come in 68. So I got active in the Orlando JCs, and my portfolio was about $100,000 worth of projects. We had bought the Miss Florida pageant we ran in, and yet I was too young to be president of the Orlando JCs, which was the second largest in the world. 4 years later, I was chairman of the board for the $100 million project. That was a Simpson County school system. After that, I got involved with the Simpson County Commission as one of the commissioners. Talked about budgets. That's the sheriff's budget, the judiciary budget, the library budget, all those budgets. But the big thing is, I want to thank you all for being what you are, representing the people in Lake County. And I like what's happening with you all, the way you discuss it and do the budget, because it's the basis of the government. And a lot of the mayor's presentation about looking for income, this is an example of some income. What I'm handing out to you. What this is my house at 625 Main Street. And I've written several letters to you all about weeds that prohibit me from using the lakefront. My grandchildren can't fish because of weeds. My son can't put his boat in because of weeds. So I've written, beginning in 22, I started writing these letters. And a year ago, I wrote you all a letter, and I got a response from the city administrator at that time. And I just want to read it in the record and hope that the same things in the budget this year. When I asked you all if you would get rid of the weeds so I could use the lakefront, the city administrator wrote back, Robert, I received your letter yesterday, and I'm sending it on to the commission as an attention to this email. I also asked both the state botanist and our consultant, Stan Patton, now Professor Patton at New College, to take whatever steps are appropriate. Please know also that both the current budget and the proposed budget contain funds for whatever work needs to be undertaken. That's what I think is right. Because I have partnered with New York, and I'm going to have to sell my home to get closer to my kids. And the property appraisers go on one of those lots. Lakefront makes a big difference. If you can't use lakefront, it is reflected in the value of the property and the taxes we can pay. So please put that in the budget, keep it in the budget.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service to the city.
I love it.
God bless you. Okay. Public hearing is, anyone else? I have no other blue cards. So at this time, the public hearing is now closed. Need the resolution from the,
Commission.
excuse me?
Commission speak about what you just spoke about. I'm not.
Oh, well, we're in this process, we was given 3 minutes to have this speak. And it's always asked that we,
Oh, I can use
yeah,
what do you
no, you just, I mean,
Comment section.
comment section. And
He came in a little.
he came in a little early, we kind of let him, that's Mr. Feather, we appreciate it. Read the motion of the resolution.
Yes,
Title.
yes, it's resolution 2024-11, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Lake Helen, Volusia County, Florida, adopting a budget for the fiscal year 24-25, providing an effective date.
We've had our discussion from the audience. Do we have any motion resolutions for the annual budget?
Make a motion, we accept resolution 2024-11.
Second.
Motion moved and second. Now we will make for the commission discussion and open for discussion before we have a vote. Any discussion? Okay.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
our budget does include lake maintenance for Macy and Lake Elm Lake.
I can look, but I think it's a $20,000 figure, and we have it in there. Just give me 1 second.
Yeah, that's the number. In terms of where it's going, I don't know what that is the number.
Yeah, it's under 11, right? 20,000, yes, sir.
What does it normally cost us to have them come in with that weed or
The Game and Wildlife Commission does not charge the city of Lake Allen. That was an agreement that the commission did with them prior to my starting, and that is done at their cost.
I thought that was Lake Elm Lake. Does that include Lake Macy?
I can double check that, but I thought they treated both lakes.
Okay.
And Ricky did an outfall, an improvement at Lake Helen, and we're doing a great. And my understanding is that they're coming back possibly October, November, and then putting in a particular fish. I'm not an expert on that.
Yeah. They won't do the carp in Lake Macy unless
We
they
have
were able to put in a screen to stop them. But Lake Elm Lake is easier.
Lake Elm Lake's already had it, we noticed it today, we were cleaning it out because we were having a problem with a limb getting there. They've already installed the grate for us, so we're waiting on the fish there to get on there.
And Lake Macy, that one's a little bit harder to put the blockage on to stop the fish.
Yeah, I haven't even talked to them about Lake Macy yet, but I can reach out to CJ and see, but I believe our contracts with both lakes, as far as they are. And we do have the ability to mechanically clean some of the permit, and we do have a local company that has donated in the past. I don't know if they will, if not, we go out for a bid like Circle or somebody that did it before.
Yeah, because I know CJ said something about because of the outfall going into Lake Colby.
Yes,
That
it's full of rocks.
where Lake Elm Lake doesn't have that type of outfall.
That's correct.
Lake Macy would be harder to put the fish in.
That is correct.
Okay, we've been open for commission discussion from the community. We've had a motion and a second. Now we will call for the question. Zone 1?
Yes.
Zone 2?
Yes.
Zone 3? Zone 4?
No.
I vote yes. Announce it again, and next, the taxing authority is the city of Lake Ellen. The rollback rate is 5.9456 mils. The percentage of change of the rollback is 21.94, and the millage rate to be levied is at 7.25. Anything else that needs to be read? Meeting adjourned.
No.
Oh,
We got 5 commission and staff discussion.
I'm sorry. Good. We have Nancy, before the adjournment, it would be the public remarks, yes.
And we have commissioner reports by zone.
Yes. Actually, in this,
No, this one is commission and staff
there's no zone commission.
It's not for the decision. It's just to distribute information.
Okay.
You don't mind.
And if you do, can we have the, Nancy, you have the yard sale?
Yes, I just wanted to ask permission to put my signs up, or the signs for the sale, for 2 weeks before the sale through the city. I'd like to ask permission so that they're not pulled.
That would be at this meeting?
It has to be this meeting because we're 2 weeks away.
2 weeks, oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. We can't vote on it though, that's the only thing. We can only vote on things that are on the agenda.
Okay, well, I usually I've always stuck with the ordinance, so, I know we've had some sign issues in the last few months. So how about I just do them, and if there's a problem, someone can let me know.
No, I think when the commission approved your waiving of the fees and the sale the last time, they're following past precedent. So put out your signs, they won't be touched.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Also, I wanted to add that when we talk about the discussions for the budgets, a couple of years ago, and I know Mr. Burton, Mayor Burton was on the commission then. I'm not sure if Ms. Rutledge and Eckert, sorry, was or not, but a couple of years ago, they began the budget in May and June, and that kind of everything. They were very thorough. Y'all were very thorough. I remember that was the first time I ever saw Ricky, and Ricky was very much involved in that.
That was in 21.
19, 20, 21, ever since then, they were,
Yeah.
I remember
22
one,
and 23 were real short.
Before we expand,
it's short.
I really wish we would have put in a blue card for that. That would have been a great kind
Well, it's something to know going forward, because for next year.
But
Also-
right now, your yellow card was to city-wide cards, yard sale signs, so we approved that.
But we agree with you, the budget process is getting
Yes, sir.
If I could, Mayor, I'd like to not address Nancy in particular, but to you all, and this is committing with that, and I can give you an idea that April will be the time when, actually March, when the department directors will be giving their first sheets on the budget. They will be due in April. May would be anticipated a commission meeting involving the preliminary rate resolution and also discussion of assessments. Keep in mind, we do not get our valuation from the county until June 1st. So once we get that, then we can take a look at how that impacts the budget. The anticipation would be is that the commission would vote in July at a regular commission meeting to vote on the proposed millage rate. And that's the rate that Lynn was talking about earlier that needs to be in by August 4th. July 15 would be commission meetings, voting on the proposed millage rate, stormwater utility assessment, and also the solid waste assessment. So all of those would take place at the July meeting. And then from that point, we would meet all the deadlines in terms of and budget workshops, then it would be in between May and that July meeting for setting that tentative rate.
And I'm sure you're going to keep us abreast of that.
We have a written calendar that Zach and I are working on to make sure that lines up so that we have no issues with the ability to schedule as many meetings as necessary.
So if Zach goes on a 7-week sabbatical, we'll have someone to fill in for him?
Yeah, well, we've got, a minor team, so Brendan, who has not been to a commission meeting, met with staff and was covering, he hadn't been through the millage process, so that was just, the discussions of the numbers had been ongoing. It was just the clarification to say, hey, make sure that you get the prelim number. That was just the one piece where there was just a miscommunication. Otherwise, it was still moving, so.
Thank you.
We'll be good from that standpoint. And I think it'll be just kind of thoughts. I think it'll be important that once the dust settles on the current fiscal year, we kind of see where our reserves, with everything, my gut says, and I hope I'm wrong, but I feel like next year's budget may be, more challenging. We kind of look at the last 3 years, where last year we said, hey, we got a plan for some vacancies. This year we did that. Budgeted for interest income between interest rates going down, reserves going down in all likelihood. That might be one that we have to cut that revenue from next year's budget. So it'll be one where just knowing it may be a tough budget cycle, even more so than this year in terms of the how to make it all work. I think it'll be imperative next year that knowing all those factors that we're jumping on it, as soon as the audit's done in February, to at least kind of start piecing it together.
Thank you so much, sir. And just to remind everybody, we have the savvy citizen sign up for it. And yes, you have this.
Okay, really quickly, I asked staff if they would please provide you some suggestions for the Light of Lake Helen night from last year. There's, if you want to take one for your records, just for consideration before next month's meeting, and with a little bit of context. We have roughly $6,000 in that fund, and so some of the suggestion that was made is to spend some of it this year. So here's one suggestion that you can ponder on.
The tree or the other building?
These would be in Lake Park, or there were some light up battery operated reeds that are also available that could go on poles coming into town. And so we're working with Ricky from Public Works and also Mr. Alan Cook, who does Butler Express, and just kind of taking inventory of what the power needs are and everything like that. But I wanted you to have this so that we can discuss it at the next meeting, so you weren't caught off guard.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
At that meeting adjourned.
We're gonna do some.
That is all meeting.